In 1968, the Township Board of Education conducted a referendum, or a townwide vote, among the Morris Township residents. The voters were asked whether they favored a separate K-12 school system for Morris Township or a K-12 merger with Morristown. The vote was 2,164 to 1,899 in favor of a separate K-12 system. The construction of a new high school was even proposed. Imagine if all of the kids living in Morristown had to attend Morristown High School, and all of the kids living in Morris Plains or Morris Township had to attend a separate high school. Imagine a school with no diversity. This was the argument in the spring of 1971 in the Jenkins versus Township of Morris School District case in the Supreme Court of New Jersey. Prior to 1865, Morristown and Morris Township were a single municipal unit. And that year, Morristown received permission to become independent and create boundary lines between the town and the township. Despite the separation, the town and the township have always acted as a single community. In 1971, Morris Township attempted to end its century-old practice of sending its high school students to Morristown High School in Morristown. The township wanted to sever school ties with the town and build its own high school. In 1971, the township had a population of about 20,000. Including less than 5% African Americans. The town had a population of almost 18,000. 25% were African Americans. Most of the town and township schools are located near the town boundary lines. In 1971, the town's Thomas Jefferson School, with its 48% black enrollment, was very close to the township's Woodland School, with 0% African American enrollment. There were great disparities in racial composition between the two public school districts. In 1971, 14% of the students at Morristown High School were African American. This includes the students from Morris Township and Morris Plains. If the Morris Township kids were withdrawn, the percentage of African Americans at MHS would probably reach 35%. If the Morris Plains kids were also withdrawn, the black enrollment at MHS would be around 55% by 1980. After the Supreme Court ruled that putting an end to the merger would segregate the school districts, the Educational Commissioner combined them into a single district and created the Morris School District.
However, the transition into the new school merger did not go as planned. 2 years after the merger, at the Assumption Church's annual carnival on May 2, 1974, the conflict arose. Kids from all over Morristown gathered with friends to enjoy the various rides and booths. However, everything was not fun and games. It started with the white teenagers hassling younger African American children. Their older siblings retaliated against them, which led to fights throughout the carnival, resulting up to 300 kids getting involved. The next day at Morristown High, fistfights filled the halls as tensions were still high from the night before. Principal Richard Hemmer made Friday a shortened day so the fistfights would not escalate into more dangerous brawls. Over the weekend of May 4th and 5th, there were various small skirmishes throughout Morristown which the police diffused. By the time Monday, May 6th came around, the students had a score to settle. In the afternoon, all the tension gave. Brawls broke out in the two cafeterias as students threw chairs and knocked over vending machines. Kids emerged from the woodshop classroom with 2x4s ready to attack. Students were pushed out windows while girls pulled clumps of hair out of each other. Chains used to lock up at night were now used as weapons as they were slammed against lockers in the halls as underclassmen jumped out of windows to leave the building. At another area, a crowd gathered around a fight between two girls, one black and one white. Police moved to stop the fight, which began drawing others into it and attempted to remove the black girl. Some 25 angry, shouting black students surrounded police, who then released the girl. The 45-man Morristown police force was already at the high school. Cops from 10 neighboring towns assisted in the diffusing of the violence. Eventually, police got everyone out of the building as students scattered throughout the surrounding neighborhoods. The district made the decision to shut down the school for the rest of the week of May 6th. Media from the Star-Ledger, Daily Record, and the New York Times set up cameras on Atno Ave and Early Street. 13 brawlers were charged. After investigation, it was thought that a white Morristown High School dropout came to school the day of May 6th with a knife to get back at a group of African Americans that threatened his younger brother. As the week went on, news outlets said the school merger from 2 years ago and overcrowding of Morristown High School, which had about 2,400 students. Of the 2,400 students, 600 were African American. The Board of Education and parents met during the week to resolve the issues. White students thought black students got preferred treatment while they agreed the school was overcrowded. One night during the week, students and their parents got together in the high school gym as they pledged peace and sang the alma mater. School resumed the following week as things got back to normal. Sports had a big thing to do with that. The baseball team was the best in the state, which helped unite the students. Cheerleaders also had a fundraiser which sold t-shirts with the phrase, MHS, what a riot. Portable classrooms were added and eventually the school expanded. Bathrooms that were unofficially used by only blacks or whites lost that designation. For the next 40 years, MHS evolved into the peaceful, multicultural building that we all know today. We got Marie Daly's first-hand experience. What schools did you attend before high school? Were those schools diverse?
I attended Woodland Avenue School, Sussex Avenue School, Frelinghuysen, and Morristown High. They were diverse, not as diverse as they are now. A lot of the black population attended Alexander Hamilton near the high school.
What year did you start at MHS?
I started Morristown High in 1972.
And when you were at MHS, what was the reputation that it had from other towns?
We did have a reputation of being kind of a tough school and with some racial problems. We also had a reputation of if you were a very intelligent student, you did well. If you needed assistance, you did well, but kind of middle of the road, you were kind of on your own and had to be proactive for yourself.
And what were the demographics of the school like?
As far as the population at Morristown High, we were integrated. We had white kids, black kids, Chinese, Spanish. The majority were white, probably maybe 30% black, and we did not have the Spanish or Colombian population in Morristown like we do now.
Did you have any friends that were African American? If so, did you ever hang out with them outside of school?
Yes, I did have African American friends. I met most of them either through the musicals that I was in the musicals all 4 years at the high school, and I also dated someone on the football team, so I got to know a lot of the African American kids on the football team and would attend parties with them.
And did white and African American kids interact with each other inside and outside of school? Were there any interracial relationships?
Some did interact, some did not. We did have 2 interracial relationships at school. One was a friend of mine on the football team. He was black, he dated a white girl. And there was another black man and white woman who dated who actually wound up getting married.
And outside of school, where did African Americans usually hang out and where did white kids usually hang out?
Town wasn't like it is now, where there's more places to hang out, so probably most of the time we would hang out on the green. But a lot of the black kids hung out, which we used to call the Hollow, which was down by Martin Luther King Avenue.
And were the sports teams diverse at Morristown High School?
They were diverse. Probably the most diverse sport was the football team.
And were there any African American teachers while you attended?
Yes, there were.
Was there an excessive amount of police and security at the school?
We didn't have a lot of security at the school. We did have 2 undercover policemen that were at the school at all times, mainly because of kids smoking marijuana at the high school. We had something called the shack out in the back where kids would go and hang out. So they were there to monitor the drug activity and, of course, if there are any fights.
And was there any crime or violence at Morristown High School?
There wasn't so much crime. There would occasionally be fights between the black kids and the white kids.
And did you sense racism at MHS?
I did. I can tell you my experience my first day of high school as a freshman. Everybody goes out and gets a new outfit for the first day, and I walked into the cafeteria for lunch, and there were a group of black women sitting at the table, and they called me over, and they asked me what my name was, and then they told me that they wanted my jacket, and I told them that I wouldn't give it to them, and I was actually quite fearful at the time, and they basically said that they would be looking for me. So that day I went to gym class, and one of the black girls was in my gym class, and I asked the teacher to be excused to go to the nurse.
And what year did the riots happen? What grade were you in?
The riots were in 1974, and I was a sophomore.
Was the mood different right before the riot? Did you sense tension?
Yes, I did sense tension to the point that a week before the riots, I asked my mother if I could not go to school. There was a lot of tension in the air. You could already see that the black kids and the white kids were starting to separate. There were 2 cafeterias, and leading up to the riots, all of a sudden one cafeteria became totally black, and the other cafeteria became totally white. So there was definitely tension. I was fearful to go to school. My mother did make me go to school, but because I had had some incidences in the past, I was a little afraid, to the point where I had my sister walk me to some of my classes.
And where did your experience begin with the riots?
The day of the riots, I was coming out of my classroom. I was walking past the cafeterias. Again, black kids in one, white kids in the other, but a lot. I mean, there were a lot of kids packed into the cafeterias. As I walked past the second cafeteria, there was a white girl with long hair, and she was sitting on the ground, and there was a black girl pulling her by her hair on the ground, and there was a teacher trying to get her off of her. I heard an announcement that everyone had to evacuate the school. Instead of leaving right away, I decided to go up to my locker to get my books, which was on the second floor. I went up to the second floor. It was totally deserted. I went to my locker, got my books. Then I turned around, and there were a group of about 4 black girls, and they started to follow me. I started walking a little faster. They walked faster. I started running. They started running after me. I ran down to the first floor office where the door was locked. I banged on it. The teacher let me in and then locked the door behind me. At that point, I probably was in the office for about 15 minutes. And then I did leave the office and went outside. I hooked up with a group of friends of mine, and we walked to a guy that I knew. We walked to his house. That was probably about 2 miles away, so we walked to his house, and then I called my parents at that point.
39 years ago, Morristown High School was shut down for 1 week after fights broke out between African American students and white students. The riot occurred a couple years after the Morris School District became official, which revolved around the school system merger between Morristown and the surrounding towns. The tension was fueled by feelings of inequality, which led to violence. Students who attended the school in 1974 blamed the eruption on overcrowding and poor scheduling that gave students too much free time. Morristown High School had around 2,400 students, about 1,000 more than today. This is when the school had only 3 floors instead of 4. The school had more of an open campus, and there were free blocks in between classes. Since students had a lot of freedom and more lenient schedules, there was less control over the school. Today, race relations at our school appear to have improved dramatically. Although we still occasionally hear racial slurs and we do not always see fully integrated groups of people, MHS has developed into a diverse school where the color of our skin does not seem to create inequality. With all of the different ethnic groups and religions at our school, many groups of friends form based on people's personalities, not how they look or where they come from. Racism in our community will never be invisible, but it is definitely getting better. Both inside and outside of school, integration is noticeable, and compared to the surrounding communities, we are more accepting.